Hello, everyone. Angelo Lewis for the Sacred Inclusion Network. And if you'd like to know more about us, please visit our website, sacredinclusion.com. And today we're so privileged to have a fascinating guest joining us, um, Mr. Ryan Hurd, who joins us delving into the profound world of dreams and their unexpected connections to social change. And Ryan is a visionary founder of dreamstudies.org, which is a platform dedicated to exploring the inner depths of our dreams. He's a leading expert on lucid dreaming and dream work, and his insights extend beyond personal exploration, focusing on themes like how dreams can be powerful tools for creativity, healing, and spiritual discernment. I should say he's the author of several books, including Lucid Immersion and Dream Like a Boss. And I definitely recommend that you go to and check out his portal on dreamstudies.org. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thank you, Angelo. It's really good to be here. And you know what's interesting is the two books that you mentioned are one of them is out of print and the other one's just an ebook now. But you can find them all on Amazon, the ones that are there, because there's more of them.
Yeah, there's lots more on Amazon. I have one about talisman, for example, and I don't know, I can't remember. Ryan is very prolific guy. So Ryan, I think it's probably a little bit exaggeration, but not much. But you've coined this term social dreaming. And that sort of implies that there's this intersection or a possible intersection between dreams and social justice. Can you lay it out for me? Explain it to me. Let me say one thing, first of all, before I get into that. Ryan is going to be leading us in an exploration on social dreaming on September 21st, 9:30, no, 9:30? Yeah, no, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'll post the information on the show notes. And let me repeat my question. Tell me about this social dreaming thing. What's the connection between dreams and social justice?
Yeah, well, I certainly didn't coin any of these terms, but I have in the most recently, especially the last few years, been called to do more talks and discussions on this intersection between social justice and the imaginal arts, which include dreaming, but as well as creative reverie, right, and altered states of consciousness. There are so many historical antecedents to this work, but the big picture here is that when we need new solutions, we need to make space for creative thinking. And creative thinking comes through rest and dreams and the imagination. And so it's crucial that we give ourselves, as activists, as those who want social change to happen at a grassroots way, to see the values that we care about reflected in the society that we pay taxes to, that we make space for our imaginations, our deep imaginations, and our collective imaginations. And so the social justice piece is that we do this together, that we're all, of course, our liberation's all bound up with one another.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that looks like, what that looks like. As you know, the world is going through what some people call a meta crisis right now. A lot going on, environmental stuff, income inequality, authoritarianism, all these kind of things. How can collective social dreaming help us?
Well, it kind of comes in a number of ways, but the first one is simply making space for rest, I think is kind of, and we'll talk about this as well in the course in great detail. But as you know, we live in a society that doesn't value rest. Rest is seen as a privilege, not a human right. Our self-worth is, tied up completely in our production, our productive value, all these sort of capitalistic things that have come down to us. And so it is important that we make space to to dream, to allow our bodies to rest and to be whole people. And so that's the foundation, really, of this work. And when we build that foundation, then the rest comes pretty easily. Then because we've been doing this for a long time, we dream for one another. We dream not just about one another, but we dream creative solutions for collective issues and problems. And this is something that really, for me, came into focus in the first part of the pandemic when there was so much talk about nightmares and
Mm.
how people were really remembering dreams more than ever. And the dreams were not good dreams, they were nightmares. And people were, of course, imbibing. There's a lot of alcohol and sleeplessness and, different things that were essentially instigating this. But what the research showed as these different dream researchers, such as Deirdre Barrett out of Harvard and Kelly Bulkeley from the Sleep and Dream database, showed is that while we were dreaming about what was scaring us, our anxieties and our fears, we were also dreaming creative solutions and imagining new worlds where things worked differently. And those dreams gave people hope and essentially planted a flag for hope to make it through the day. And so that was a flashpoint for me about the power of dreaming for collective change.
Mm. I saw it was an article, and it was about women that lived through the Nazi era, and someone went through the trouble of collecting their dreams, and it was fascinating in terms of what they found. However, that's kind of like a retrospective. So that shows us what people were going through in the unconscious when they couldn't necessarily verbalize it because it would be dangerous to do so. I wonder if there's a flip side of that. You kind of alluded to it. So yes, if there's a historical thing going on, that's going to impact us. It's going to impact us, our imagination, our waking lives, everything. But I guess what you're saying is that it's also the other way around. So in other words, we can maybe we can collectively imagine the future, and maybe it might happen like that. Can you possibly give some examples of how something like this, not necessarily in the context of dreams, but how collective imagination has formed a positive reality?
Well, sure. There's lots of examples of this stuff. I mean, we could look at the ethnography of Native America, for instance. There's lots of revolutions and rebellions throughout history and prehistory where a dream vision instigates a collective voice behind that vision, and that people literally overthrow colonial oppressors behind the weight of a vision or a dream. And the dream often is integrative. It often solves a imaginal problem. For instance, the new culture, if there's a culture clash, integrating new cultural practices with indigenous sovereignty, and how can these two things coexist? And so we've seen this so many times, the Red Stick Rebellion being one of them in the 16th century in the southeastern United States. The Creek Muskogee Rebellion was fueled by apocalyptic dreams and visions and visionaries. And so basically, when humans are under eco-social stress, which is most of the time, what happens is that visionaries come out of the woodwork. We start dreaming, and we start dreaming loudly, right? And 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 so the point of all this is that we're gonna do it. So how can we anticipate this, support this in a healthy way, and make room for each other to share our dreams? And it really, and I'll talk about this in the course, but it's so easy because it starts in the household. It starts with just sharing dreams with our loved ones and our family and our chosen family, and those who are doing this work with us. And when we do so, we are supported.
So you alluded to this, Ryan, but what are some practical steps that people can take to incorporate what we're calling social dreaming in their lives?
Making room for rest, making space for dreams, talking about our dreams, wondering about our dreams, not trying to solve our dreams necessarily, but really being able to be steeped in some mystery and making room for awe and hope. Those are the things, the fruits that really come out of the practices of having a more dream-centric lifestyle. And again, it's really grounded in rest. And I think about Trish Hersey's work, uh, the Nap Bishop, and how she has done so much work in the last 15 years, just focusing on rest as the foundation for folks. And I think that this is absolutely wonderful, and I want to build on that and move it into the dream spaces. And so, how can we make room to allow ourselves to rest? And it seems like such a simple thing, but
Yeah.
it's hard, right? Like it's hard.
Listen, you're talking to a no yoga nidra fanatic. Not a day goes by where I don't listen to yoga nidra tapes. And I'm a big napper, so I understand what you're saying and support it.
Yeah, and it's hard. And we talked about this a little bit before the call, but part of that is with social justice is working with our internalized prejudices. This is always, the shadow work of doing this kind of thing. And one of those things is working with our own internalized ableisms in which we don't allow ourselves to nap because we don't deserve it.
Mm,
And that's painful,
yeah.
right? And so it really takes a community of support to really be able to unlearn, unpack, deconstruct those poisonous myths that we aren't deserving of rest and creativity and just daydreaming to 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 let the mind wander. And of course, we need it. Like it's part of who we are as humans. And so it's just creating supports for that. And that's what I want to help do. I want to help people create those supports.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned is the word social. So it's one thing to dream alone, it's another thing to dream in tandem with others and to also share our dreams. This is a wonderful song that John Lennon wrote, Imagine. And whenever I see people do that collectively, you can see that there's something that it's like a weight that goes off. And for a moment, we're dreaming about what could be, as opposed to sometimes the darkness of what is.
Right, right. And and Carl Jung has a saying about how that one doesn't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That's part of the work. And so this work is also necessarily shadow work. And so imaginal work is shadow work. And there's a story I could tell about that briefly about one of my mentors, Jeremy Taylor, who is basically one of the founders of the contemporary dream work movement in the late 70s and 1980s, moving dream work out of just the realm of therapy and only experts know what's going on, and allowing, grassroots dream sharing people to say, hey, I have enough knowledge about myself to wonder about and think about what my own dreams could signify or be energizing or pointing towards. And so Jeremy Taylor was a big piece of that. Well, he began that movement in the context of social justice as he was doing some work as a conscientious objector during the Vietnam conflict. And he was in Berkeley, I think he was in Emeryville, working with other social workers and sharing dreams with them. And this was a very specialized situation. They were all a bunch of young, well-meaning white guys and who wanted to help a community, but they were bungling it because of their own internalized oppressions, essentially. They were not connecting with people. And so they had what we would call today an affinity group where they did dream work together and they talked about their shadow figures and they talked about what's happening with when I'm, in a dream and I'm running away from, somebody who's scary and why does that person look like that? And they did so in a non-judgmental way. And as they did this work, they were able to make conscious that shadow material, right? To absorb it and be able to see people face to face for who they were. And they became more effective as social workers. And that's the point. They then were able to serve that community, that small community. They were able to serve them. And they did it by doing a dream circle, by sitting around and sharing dreams in a sacred, non-judgmental way. And so that's an example of what it could look like, but it can look like a million other things too.
One last question, Ryan. If there's one takeaway you'd like people to get from your exploration on the 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, what would it be?
Make space for yourself to rest. Make space for yourself to dream. Be curious about your dreams. Ask yourself, what am I going to dream tonight? And they will come back and then share that dream and be surprised when you see how your world changes and how quickly it changes.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. And please, anyone listening to this, spread the word. And in our Sacred Inclusion Network private community, we're talking about dreams all week, all month of September. And if you haven't already, please go to Ryan's platform, dreamstudies.org, and check out what he's doing. He's got a portal that you can join if you like. He's just doing wonderful work. And we're talking about social justice, but there's a whole pantheon of imaginal studies that he's involved in and can share. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Angelo. See you soon.